Hi guys, this is Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today's video we're going to be using the Spellbinders Floribunda Rose by Susan Tierney. Now that's all of these pretty dies. One of the cool things on the dies is that each of the dies has etched on there how many that you need. So I'm going to go ahead and start die cutting some of these out. I did do a partial trial run using some papers that I had in my stash that were colored on one side. I'm thinking that's probably not the best idea for this because on a rose you do see both sides of the paper, of the petal whenever you're looking at that, and I think it would look so much better to have it both sides. So I'm going to just die cut all of the petal pieces out of some pink cardstock and then we can start putting this together. Okay, now I've got all of my pieces out. As I mentioned, each of the dies has a little embossed piece that says how many. So I've got 3 of this one, 6 of this one, 2 and 2, so it's not really a whole lot. You could ink up the edges, but I think on this first one I'm just going to leave it plain. Now, next step, you can put each of the pieces you're going to be doing pretty side down, so whichever side you want to be the top, have that facing down, and we're going to shape the little petals. To do that, I'm just using one of my small styluses. I do not have all of the fancy stuff that Susan Tierney recommends, and I'm bringing it down, bringing it from the outside in to kind of just shape those petals. And I think you're just basically wanting to get it kind of flexible. I don't think it really matters how detailed you are on that, but we do need it to be a little more flexible than what I've got that. It would be easier to use Susan Tierney's tools for doing this, and I will leave a link down below for you guys. I have not invested in that as yet. Okay, so that is kind of flexible and does have a little shape to our flowers. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the rest of the small ones, and for this flower we're also going to be using one of our separate petals, so I'll be doing that one as well. Next, I'm taking my tweezers and going right between our petals and just doing a little pinch right at the end. And then I'm going to curve my little the petals back a little bit. I'm going to do that on all 3 of the petals on this piece, and then I'll go and do that on the others as well. So just pinch a little bit here. And when it comes to doing the curve, you could always wait until you've put your petals together, you put your flowers together, and then shape those out like you would, like what you see on a normal rose. Now we can start shaping our flower. I've taken the smallest, that spare leaf, the filler leaf, petal, they're petals, they're pink, and I'm putting my tweezers down along this outside. Again, this is where the paper is pretty side down, so the top is basically with the back side facing you, and you just place your tweezers there. And then we're going to want to put some glue along this side, you know, kind of out to the end. And I would say you could use whatever glue you have handy, but you do need to use some wet glue. And then we're going to, this is basically going to be the center of our bud. So we are going to, if I can make it turn, going to basically roll that up. So we roll that up and then we pull out our tweezers, and then we can basically do a little bit of rolling like we did on the other. This last petal, you can roll that out just a little bit, or a lot, whatever you prefer. And that is going to be the center of our bud. Next, we're going to cup these. So all you do to be able to cup them is you take your medium ball stylus and you kind of just press down in the middle there, and that kind of makes it shape kind of like a cup. We're going to do that with all 3, and then we're going to layer them up. think I want to push that one down just a little bit more. There we go. Now I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on the back of one of these because I figure that's going to be easier than trying to put it in the center. And then, ooh, and that one doesn't look like I did any of the curling on it. Okay, this one I need to go back and redo, but let's go ahead and do this one and I can catch that one up in just a second. So put a little bit of glue there, and then we're going to offset the petals because we've got the gap in between them, right? See if I can get that to shift a little bit. There we go. That looks like about what I want it to be. Okay, so I've got that third set of petals in there, so pressing that down, and now I'm going to basically just pull them up, gather them together so that they are kind of clumped together as a little bud. And then that's where this little collar thing works. So I'm going to go ahead and just put them down in there so they hold their shape. I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive, a little bit of liquid glue to the end of our center that we already made. And place that right in the middle there. And then I can set this off to dry. Next we're going to go on to another one of our petals. This is one of the ones that is the 2 petal. So again, we're going to do this one facing down. So we've got the pretty side up, pretty side down. So we're working on the back side. Oops, I made a mistake here. This should actually be pretty side up for these larger of the petals. And we're going to do the same thing where we're just going to be softening all of that petal so it's easier to work with. And as with all paper flowers, you do want to work from the outside in. Working from the inside out, you could easily tear this. And we don't want to tear our flower or pull the petals apart because that's going to make it a little bit, it's going to be a lot harder to work with. And my thought is you would wind up having to recut everything if you tear them like that. So let's go ahead and just go from the outside in. We're doing this the same way that we did that smaller 3 petal. This one's bigger, so I am kind of roughing that up a little bit more, I believe. Guess that's a word. Okay, and then we'll take our tweezers and do the same thing that we did with the other where we put it in the center and then just pinch that center part, and then we can start doing some little rolls of the petal at the top. Okay, so I'm going to just flip that around. And since I was pulling from my scrap, I think I was using some heavyweight cardstock, so a lighter weight cardstock would probably be easier to do this with. But it'll be okay. Okay, and then we've got our larger 3. And for this one, we're going to do the same kind of thing, but we're going to do it with the right side facing up. Okay, so I'm also going to do the same thing I did before and put my tweezer right in the middle and pinch that up. And then I can start rolling the edges. So now we can start assembling our card, actually assembling our flower. I've already put together a card base with some pattern paper and the new sweet mini slimline cover plate. I actually trimmed it down because this is for a slimline, so I adhered it down and then just trimmed off the edges, and I think that is going to work out perfect. But I figure I'm going to put my flower probably mostly centered because it's going to be big, and partially to the upper corner because I like them to be a little bit offset. So just do that. I'm just going to start off with putting a little bit of glue on the back here and putting that in place and just holding it down with my ball stylus, and that's one of the large 2 petal pieces, and grabbing the other one, and I'm just going to offset that, and again holding it down with that stylus for a moment so it can catch. Next we do the same thing with the 3, and I think I'll just put the adhesive down in the center here. And again, you do want to try to offset your petals as much as you can, or as best you can. There we go. Do the same thing with this 3rd one. Actually, did I put that in the center? Looks like it was a little bit off of the center. I do want it kind of centered in there instead of lopsided. Okay. Okay, adding this second of the 3 petal. That is starting to look a little like a rose, so that's kind of cool. Okay, now remember that little bud we made to begin with? Now is the time we are going to go ahead and add that right into the center. So I'm going to be a little generous on my adhesive for this part. Make sure it stays in place. I'm going to go ahead and press that right in there. And I'm using my tweezers in the center to kind of push it down. Not so much that I'm going to poke a hole or anything in there, but hold it in place. And this is actually my first attempt at this kind of rose, and I think that that looks lovely. Do want a little bit, I'm thinking there's so much going on in the center, and I want a little bit more going around in the edges, so I am going to use a couple of these, what Susan Tierney calls filler petals, and I'm going to go ahead and just add a couple of those in. Actually, I think I want to turn out the edges a little bit more on here, and add a little bit more. Well, I think that's probably enough adhesive. And this is actually easier than I expected. So just placing that in there, and I think I want another one on this side. So again, I'm just adding some glue to that. And I'm going to put it right over here. And I think that that makes a lovely flower. It is very dimensional, so you would want to use a card box if you're going to mail this, or it would probably be better to hand deliver. So I also added a few of the leaves that are in the kit, and actually cut that out of some paper that just had some ink smushing down on there, gives a little texture to it. And I created a couple of the little buds that's also included in the kit, and I think that this just turns out so pretty. You can add whatever sentiment that you want to the front of it, and that would be absolutely perfect. So if you want to see some more videos where I am using some Spellbinders products, be sure to check out this playlist. You guys have a wonderful day, and remember, if I can make it, you can too. Have a great day.